Good morning, Hans.
Good morning.
Good morning, Hans. Oh, goodness. Uh-oh, there's a little bit of an echo.
That's because I haven't turned off my YouTube yet.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, goodness. Uh-oh, there's a little bit of an echo.
That's because I haven't turned off my YouTube yet.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, my computer's been acting funky ever since Miguel got on it yesterday, so I'm kind of frustrated.
Yeah, that's why I decided to just start the live stream early here, because I wanted to make sure everything was hunky-dory, but we're live now, so.
Okay, Commissioner Bird just texted me, so let me see what Hans,
Yes,
why does the agenda look like that?
because this is my markup. I've got my markup showing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I can switch it to a PDF, but
Okay, that's fine. If I just wondered if
yeah, maybe a PDF will be a better presentation.
no, if you have to keep it as Word to highlight, which I don't think you do, right?
No, I can highlight in PDF. But if we start shifting stuff around during the meeting,
Oh, I get what it, yeah,
it's
just leave
easier
it.
to do it in Word.
Yeah, just
So
leave it.
that's why I was gonna leave this up until we approve the agenda. And
Got it.
then I can put a cleaner PDF copy up.
Okay, that got it. That's fine. Now I get it. How are you doing today?
I'm live on YouTube, so I won't answer that publicly.
So it worked pretty easy this morning for YouTube.
Yeah, it doesn't seem we hit any glitches, so. So yeah, you're in luck. We didn't have to swiftly turn things over to you for some reason.
Yeah, it seemed pretty easy, which is nice.
It's easy when everything works like it should. It's only when there's some sort of glitch that stuff gets screwy.
Good morning, all.
Good morning, Commissioner Fishman.
How are you doing, Danielle?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, hanging in. I'm just looking at the picture there of Commissioner Byrd, and so far I'm holding up. I don't know how much longer I can look, but I hear that his birthday's coming up shortly.
Oh, when is that?
I think it's like tomorrow or the day after. It's this week.
Oh, nice.
I mean, does he? I mean,
Well, I'll share something.
sure.
Me and Wayne have the same birthday, and it was last Friday, June 10th.
Well, how did we miss that?
I was gonna be private about it, but I guess I don't mind.
Okay, well, now we're going to have to come up with some kind of official harassment little session for all the birthdays that have recently or are occurred or about to occur.
Oh, that would be nice.
I think we definitely need to do that.
Sounds good to me. I guess Commissioner Byrd doesn't have anything to say.
I'm sure he's inventing all kinds of snarky remarks right now. His mind is just going crazy, coming up with potential remarks here. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, we can hear you.
All right, everybody. It's 9:30 your time. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone to the weekly regular meeting of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. Today's Wednesday, June 15th. Who's going to be taking the vote in the roll call? Is that Russell or Michael?
That's me. It's Michael Smith.
All right, good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
So I want to call this meeting to order. Roll call, Mike.
Commissioner Byrd,
I'm a present.
Commissioner Hall,
Present.
Commissioner Fishman,
Here.
and Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Here.
and finally Commissioner Maestas.
I'm here. Thank you, Mike.
We have 5 commissioners present, constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Vice Chair Hall, do you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the State Pledge?
No, not at all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall.
Mhm.
All right. Members of the commission, you have the agenda before you. Are there any suggested changes or modifications?
Mr. Chairman, this is Hans with Office of General Counsel.
Yes,
I would like to remove from the regular action item matter 22130 TREN in the matter of the investigation of Maverick Services LLC. I have been informed by staff that there is new information regarding their compliance, so I would like to remove that from regular action, and I'll probably bring the matter back next week.
okay. If there are no objections, we have one amendment so far. Any other potential changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Byrd. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Hall. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. Michael Smith, roll call vote.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
and Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
The agenda as amended is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go ahead and move on to Employee of the Month. I don't know who's presenting.
That would be John Reynolds, Mr. Chairman, will be presenting Employee of the Month.
All right, John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to do this, present this award this morning. Just about 2 weeks from my retirement after 14 years here at the commission, working with a lot of good, smart, committed people. I wanted to take the easy way out and give the award to the entire utility division. But you know, it got me to thinking about who we are and what we're made of. And we have, you know, as I look back at this, I mean, we've hired people in waves over the years, and we have 8 people who've been hired since the pandemic started. Out of 18, we have 8 people who've been hired since the pandemic has started. 3 people in a couple of years before the pandemic. And then we have some veterans who date back to the 2000s. 7 of them have been with us. And then we have Mike Ripperger. He started working in the 90s. He's the telecommunications bureau chief, as you all know, and he's going on 25 years of service. And I would like to award him Employee of the Month. He's been truly a distinguished contributor to the utility division, to the agency, to the mission, to the public and ratepayers. He's been a dream to work with and to supervise. And I'll read up my pretty succinct write-up about Mike, and would appreciate your recognition of his service. Mike Ripperger typifies the professionalism and loyalty that is so valuable to this agency and its important mission. He's a consistently hard worker. He gets the job done, and he's a reliable collaborator. He knows his job extremely well. He performs without any limelight. In short, he is smart, he's quick, he's responsible, he's always ready to step up or step down as necessary. He joined the PRC, I believe, in 1998, stepped up to become bureau chief in 2003, almost 20 years ago. His low point when he hired me was in 2008. I worked for him for 3 years. He has worked for me for the last 2.5 years. Our relationship has stayed the same regardless of circumstance. He treats all of his colleagues with the same respect. For all that he has done, Mike, you deserve the recognition of this agency. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off on behalf of the commissioners, and then we can entertain any other comments from appropriate staff. But during my short tenure on the commission, I've had the utmost respect for Mike, and it's so gratifying to be able to expand broadband in our state. I realize our budget doesn't really compare very well to the actual needs to provide broadband throughout New Mexico, but I think it's a vital service that we provide. And I know Mike's been right there in the thick of it. So I think that this Employee of the Month is very well deserved. And I want to thank you, John, too, for bringing it forward to recognize the good work that our staff brings on behalf of all New Mexicans. So thank you for that. And I want to open the floor to other commissioners. Yeah, I can't see anyone, so you have to
Mr.
speak up.
Chair,
Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
Vice Chair Hall, and then Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
oh, Mr. Chair, I just want to say, I think this is a great recognition today. Mike Ripperger, I feel, is one of the pillars of staff. He's, and as largely, I'm sure, because the area that he, the area that he supervises is broadband, which is so critical to our operations and so critical to our state. Every time I've needed information from Mike, he's been completely available and has been able to explain everything I needed to know. And he's just exactly what you want in an employee, at the commission or anywhere. And I just have to say he's just been a rock. I recall when we had that telecommunications conference up in Farmington. Mike was critical to the success of that. I mean, he just is so capable and so knowledgeable. And I'm really glad that he's getting this recognition today.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, I know you're listening, and I want to thank you for your work, your excellence in your choices, your decisions. Thank you for traveling to my district. You've done that many times. You've taught me when I should weigh in on a certain issue. You also coordinated the conference in Farmington, and thank you so much for helping me on that. And most importantly, legislative bills at the Roundhouse. You knew where I stood on my position with certain telecommunication companies. You dived into the legislative language. I've seen you across the street at the Roundhouse, and deep concerns with equity across the board for New Mexicans. You did not say that directly, but you put it in the legislative language. Thank you so much. You really have helped me. And most importantly, you were the first staff member to welcome me to the commission in July of 2010. And I remember it was in the stairways of the PERA building. I was just going around the corner and you called me back and you said, welcome. So thank you so much, Mike. I wish you well. I know you're going to be with the commission for a very long time, and you're the type of person that wants to work all the time. So Mike, congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, and thank you for your leadership in broadband. Commissioner Fishman.
In addition to what everyone else has said, I wanted to recognize Mark for all the collaboration he's done in what's been a really, during his tenure, chaotic situation when it comes to regulating broadband and telecom. And Mark has been just incredible at collaborating with all of the different agencies that he's had to collaborate with. And he's had a great relationship with the legislature as well. That comes to Mike for information all the time. And certainly Senator Padilla, who is in the industry and focuses a lot on legislation there, has relied a lot on Mike to get information and just be a collaborator. And Mike's done a terrific job of that. And even when there's been pressure on, and I know I had an assistant for a while that sometimes was not always easy to deal with. And Mike was always just very, very contained and controlled and just kind of kept his wits about him and steady. And I really appreciated his ability to keep a lid on things and just make sure we were moving forward in a constructive manner. And so, Mike, thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to apologize if my office at any point in time created headaches for you. But you came through it like a trooper, and I really appreciate that. And congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. The number one source of headaches.
You know, you got to excel at something. What can I say?
Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think I can improve upon the accolades that your colleague, Mr. Reynolds, gave or my fellow commissioners. So I'm not going to try, but I will ask a question. In the, I believe, 24 years of service, you ever walk through the halls of the PRC and think, man, I just must be a dream to work with? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh man, getting thick here. Getting thick. All right. Anybody else? Any other staff members that wish to make any remarks about our employee of the month, Mr. Mike Ripperger?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a quick remark.
Yes, Russell.
Well, as many other people have said, Mike is very knowledgeable, very experienced, very helpful, very on point, very focused on what needs to be done. And basically, as the telecom/broadband designee within OGC, basically, I know that I'm doing something right if Mike agrees. That's where I get my reassurance. If Mike agrees with me, that I know I'm doing the right thing. So I just want to thank Mike for all his help over the years.
Thank you, Russell. Anyone else that wishes to make any remarks over Mike's recognition? Anyone else? Going once? Going twice?
Excuse me, Commissioner
Judy.
Maestas. Yes, I just want to say that, of course, everything everyone has said about Mike is absolutely true. But I want to say that I actually met Mike when I was over at DFA, and we had an issue, and I came over and met with him, and I came from another agency, but I was immediately impressed with, how he knew so much, but he was so easy to talk to and explain things to me, who didn't really know anything about telecom at the time, but it was an issue that we had at that time. So anyway, just having that perspective and then being able to actually work with him has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Judy. Face-to-face meetings. I remember when I used to have those. All right, anybody else wishes to make any remarks regarding Mike? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Our next agenda item is recognition of
Mr.
hearing.
Chair,
Yes,
Mike is on. I didn't know if he wanted to speak or if you want to give him a moment.
oh, sorry about that. Yes, Mike, the man of the hour. Mike Ripperger, come on, don't be shy.
Hold on. There we go. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, John. The only reason I could do my job is because I get support. And that's from my supervisor and my employees. So thank you, everybody. You know, it's about the job, doing the job right. And if I didn't have great people to work with, it'd be a lot tougher. So thank you. And I appreciate it and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Mike. I'm glad to be on the same team with you. And as chair, and one of my final actions, I'm announcing a moratorium on all retirements until December 31st.
There you go.
All right. Thank you again, Mike and John, for bringing this to the
Thank you.
commission. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next, if you could display that, Hans, the next agenda item. Recognition of hearing examiner Ashley Schonauer, who is leaving us as our chief hearing examiner. What we're going to do in our little tribute is, I'm just going to say a few words, a quick bio related information about Ashley, and then we're going to open it up to hearing examiners, then OGC, and then division staff, and we'll end actually with comments from commissioners. So Ashley became a hearing examiner in 2010 and was designated as chief hearing examiner in 2019. He's been a lawyer for more than 4 years. He's worked as a regulator, an advocate for interveners, and as an attorney for regulated entities. When he applied to become chief hearing examiner, he noted the gamut of cases he's adjudicated, including big utility cases and cases as small as ambulance cases. So I don't know, I guess you got to start somewhere. In addition to his Juris Doctorate, he has graduate degrees in accounting, natural resources, and environmental law and economics. And I have some intel that he worked on manufacturing gopher traps, but that probably was after Caddyshack was filmed. And so they could have really used him at Bushwood Country Club. So with that, I want to open the floor to fellow hearing examiners. What would you like to say about Ashley? Come on, hearing examiners.
Mr. Chairman, unless Hans has a specific list,
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I'd be willing to start.
Please do.
Very well. Thank you. I've known Ashley since beginning of his tenure as a hearing examiner in 2010. I believe I've known Ashley since 2005 when Ashley was a member of the commission's legal staff. I had the privilege of making his acquaintance and actually had Ashley participate in some of the cases that the commission assigned me to. So I've had the privilege in seeing him in 2 different divisions in for working for the commission. As we all know, Ashley's a quiet man. Ashley listens more than he speaks. Ashley doesn't waste words. Actually, he doesn't appear to waste anything. I think it's his thrifty nature. Ashley isn't afraid of working, and his work is thorough, and it's logical, and it's fair. Ashley appears to appreciate brevity, directness. It is my sincere belief that the hearing examiner group, the commission, and primarily the citizens of New Mexico, both individual and corporate, past and present, are fortunate to have had Ashley work upon their behalf and receive his work efforts. I have also personally appreciated the opportunity to learn and grow from working with him. I was fortunate to learn from Ashley about the Oregon coastline, its beautiful beaches, great fish and seafood, and for Ashley, Marion berry pie. His choice of the less frenetic interstate and more interesting, less crowded driving byways to get to the coast afforded me not only a more tranquil experience, but an opportunity to stop near McMinnville at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, where I got to see the spruce goose. I don't think Ashley has yet taken the opportunity to do that. I highly recommend it. The largest wooden plane was pretty awesome. Through Ashley, I've also learned about Philly cheesesteaks and an appreciation for professional football. As a college basketball fan, this was a new endeavor for me, but I got to share with Ashley his extreme joy in 2018 when his Philadelphia Eagles football team won the Super Bowl. Everyone in the group did, as a matter of fact. So Ashley, I wish you much future happiness and adventure. I say to you, in the words of Charles Borelli and Roger Cortland, and depending on which version that you prefer, I couldn't remember. I remember you sending me several versions. Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Fly, Eagles, fly, or fight, Eagles, fight. Score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em high, hit 'em low, and watch our Eagles fly on the road to victory. EAGLES, Eagles. Go, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, Hans, I believe you were next.
Yeah, I also have from the hearing examiners, Anthony Medeiros. Anthony?
Anthony, you there?
He was there just a second ago. I also, if he's reconnecting, Robert London also asked to make some comments for on the hearing examiners.
Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Wow. I'll just give you my perspective. I recognize there's the public maybe tuning in. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. I've jotted them down on a piece of paper to make sure I present this correctly. For those that don't know, I've been a hearing examiner at the PRC for about 2.5 years. Ashley Schenauer is one of the main reasons I work at the PRC. For about 4 years, I was hearing cases at another agency which shared the 5th floor of the Para building. I'd often see a tall, well-dressed man in the hallway, the elevator, the building lobby, and near the hearing room on the ground floor. He seemed distinguished. He also appeared to be calm and relaxed. I wanted to be like him. Eventually, I introduced myself and learned of his role with the PRC. We discussed the kind of cases we each heard. I was intrigued that the direct testimony was pre-filed and how different were the scope and the substantial complexity of the cases. I wanted to hear those cases. I wanted to be like him. Ashley also seemed somehow humble. He took the time to talk with me. He was kind. He was secure. And yes, somehow modest. I wanted to be like him. Eventually, I was hired, and I'm proud to have worked with Ashley. Watching him up close, I saw that he really is wise and modest, and is calm, collected, and confident as well. I still want to be like him. Ashley is an inspiration. Ashley has the gift for communication and the ability to ease the tensions of those around him. I'll miss him, will miss him, and directly, thank you, Ashley, for your substantial public service. And thank you for sharing yourself with us at the PRC.
Thank you, Bob. Very heartfelt. Thank you. Hans, is Anthony
I see
ready?
I see he is connected, Mr. Chairman. Anthony, can you unmute yourself? There he goes.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you, Ashley and Bob, for your wonderful tributes to Ashley. Ashley, when I first met you too many years ago now to admit, and you were first appearing before me as staff counsel in commission proceedings in Marion Hall, I realized right away that you were an accomplished, careful, and meticulous lawyer whom I could rely on for excellent and reliable work. And as I got to know you a little better, I learned that you are an exceptionally good and caring person. Okay, with only the noticeable flaw in your character being your rabid fandom for all Philadelphia professional sports teams, be it your beloved Eagles or, as many say back there, Eagles, the 76ers, the Phillies, the Flyers, and forgive me for forgetting whatever Philly franchise I've omitted. Anyway, an opening emerged in the hearing examiners group, and I and other colleagues urged you to apply. What I didn't immediately realize at the time, but certainly came to appreciate and cherish, is that you would eventually become my great and invaluable mentor and dear, dear friend for life. But as chief of our group, with your consistently unmatched work ethic, your deep compassion, patience, and humility, your understated calm and quiet, but nonetheless dogged determination, and your unimpeachable integrity, you became that and much, much more to me and so many others at the commission. So much so that as I'm about to step into the role of chief hearing examiner, as I've already told you, if I work my absolute hardest in this job, which I plan on doing, otherwise knowing within myself that I'd let you down, I still will have succeeded in being only half as good as you performed as chief. But I'm totally good with that and in fact honored by that prospect, since you have imprinted that enormous, enduring, and indelible a mark on this agency in your indefatigable service to the citizens of New Mexico. And let us never forget the public interest. So Jennifer, Jackson, and I Wish you all the best in your future endeavors and safe and happy travels, Ashley. However, when you and Carol get tired of traveling our country and perhaps others, when you get bored reading all the great novels you set aside for retirement, when you miss experiencing all the stress and pressure this job provides, when you start missing seeing your name in the papers, and when Joel's Sixers have finally won their first NBA championship or two, keep trusting the process. Just rest assured, the door is always open. I'm eternally grateful, Ashley, for you. Simply, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. You do have big shoes to fill, but I know you're up for it. Are there any other, that really kind of concludes at least the list of hearing examiners that wanted to say a few words. Are there any others before we move on to OGC? Any other hearing examiners wish to make remarks? All right, let's go ahead and move on to OGC. Michael Smith.
So can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I was still muted. I just passed my 10th anniversary at the PRC, and in the 9 years that I've been in the role as general counsel, I guess one thing that has surprised me is that it has taken this long for me to run Ashley out of the PRC. But seriously, I have, over the course of the time that I've been here, come to rely on and respect and just generally have great admiration for Ashley in the work that he has performed, notwithstanding the obstacles that I may have thrown in his way in doing that work effectively. But he has really, from the very beginning, been a great mentor for me in particular. I know the first year when I was here, he took the time to sit down with me and explain the fascinating concepts of QIP and regulatory assets and regulatory liabilities and all sorts of new terms that and concepts that are vital to the work that we do. I discovered that we had a common background in our love of cheesesteaks and our love of Cape May, New Jersey, going to the beach there. And I have an adopted love of Philadelphia as well, by virtue of my wife and all my college roommates having been Philadelphians. Can't share his love for the Eagles unless the Saints have been knocked out. But Ashley, we did give you a good draft pick for next year, so hopefully the Eagles will use that well. And I really hope that he has a great retirement. I hope I see him riding around on his bike, and I wish he was riding his bike to work, but he will and deserves that retirement. And I hope you have a good time on the Oregon coast as well. So with that, congratulations on your retirement, Ashley. You deserve it.
Thank you, Michael. Judy Amer.
Yes, I want to agree with others about Ashley's humble demeanor and thanking Ashley for letting me get to know him. His calm, gentle appearance is well known, but for those who have worked with him, underneath lies his steely convictions, strong opinions, and a commitment to the law, and his ever-present sense of right and wrong. I feel fortunate that I've been able to work with you, Ashley, and I can only say enjoy the next chapter of your life.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else from OGC before we move on to division directors? Any other members of OGC that wish to make some remarks? All right, hearing none, let's go ahead and move on. We have John Reynolds. John Reynolds, you're on.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I know it's hard. It's been hard work schooling me and my fellow utility division colleagues. And I really, even though it's always a challenge, and for me personally to come back and try to re-argue and refine the arguments I'm trying to make, it's been a real pleasure with the way you treat us with dignity and composure. It meant a lot to me. It was always challenging, but I took it as positive and tried to come back next time and do better. And I feel that about you and your colleagues in the hearing examiner's office. I was thinking about our experience here at the commission. Ashley, I was looking up, I'd recalled an article about hearing examiners in the New Mexican, and it wasn't that easy to find. And I know you know, as people have said, you do your work quietly, calmly, low profile. But I went to the New Mexican's website and I just put in Schanauer, and a lot of things came up. I mean, you're not, the low profile, I think, is a bit of a, I'm not sure how true that is. And I don't know if you have a social media manager behind you or working with you, but I mean, there was a long list of articles before I got to the one I was looking for, which was about hearing examiners and their role here at the commission. And positive comments from commissioners, and all, you know, reflect all the things that have been said about you. But there are others who don't appear before the commission who chose to make a comment in this article about you, Ashley. And the CEO of PNM, she asked a rhetorical question. Do I blame the hearing examiner for getting grumpy? Grumpy? Ashley? If Ashley's grumpy, what are the rest of us are raving lunatics? I mean, I think that Mark Fenton is here, and I'm sure he wasn't consulted when the CEO decided to use that adjective to describe Ashley. It didn't work out too well, and I'm sure that PNM will rethink this going forward. So, Ashley, thank you very much for what you do for fighting the good fight, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. And if we need to share advice about retiring in the midst of a roaring Jimmy Carter inflation, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's very funny. Any other division directors or any staff on the advocacy side that wish to make any remarks for Ashley?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say a few words, if you may.
Absolutely, Brad. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I haven't been here as long as Ashley or as long as John. And so I don't have memories from all the way back. I have no particular love for the Eagles, but I don't really dislike them either. But I would say, what I do want to say about Ashley is, having done many hearings before Ashley, you know, I think I've been practicing in New Mexico for 9 years now, and I've done many hearings. I think Ashley was the first hearing examiner I dealt with way back when I started. I think what I really appreciate the most is Ashley's very steady hand in running the hearings. I think being a hearing examiner is an incredibly difficult job, one that I couldn't do. I would not be nearly as good as Ashley or any of the current hearing examiners we have in their role. But Ashley kind of sets an example by just running a very smooth, a very steady, a very competent hearing. And it makes, as a participant in those hearings, someone who's often fighting with the other parties and battling with them to get our positions accepted, Ashley's very steady hand is really helpful, I think, to getting these cases properly heard and properly resolved. And so I want to thank him for that, and I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else before we open it up to commissioners? Anyone else that wish to make any remarks in honor as a tribute to Ashley's retirement? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Let's open the floor to the commissioners. Commissioners, I'm going to go ahead and go last if you all don't mind.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm only here, 3.5 years now. So yeah, I don't have a lot of memories, but one of the first recommended decisions I read was Mr. Schanauer's. And at that point I had not met him, but it was, I don't want to say it was compelling. I used it at night. It was helpful to go to sleep. But the result was I had a lot of questions, and he was willing to meet with me and answer some of those questions and educate me, obviously. This would have been January or February, early on. And I immediately had to come up with a nickname for him once I'd met him. And it was Ashley Bloody Pitts. And for some of you, you'll know the reference to that, but I needed that to remind me who he was, and which he knows. I explained it to him later. We were walking in the hallway, and it kind of came up. Why are you calling me that? So anyway, I had to have a nickname just to remember who he was, but I didn't truly start to respect his abilities until I watched him in a hearing, and there would be statements made that I thought needed a little deeper dive into the statement. And he had like no reaction. He's just over there writing, keeping all his notes. And it would be sometimes 2 or 3 hours later before he would come back to that. And he would ask a question about that statement. So he was very thorough. What I realized is I would get sidetracked. I would chase that rabbit, right? I'm gone. I'm not paying attention to what's being said now because I'm chasing a rabbit in my mind. But he stayed focused on the issue and would just come back around to it. And I began to realize the ability that he had, and I've seen it now in the other hearing examiners, watching them, but that's a special ability that they have learned or that they have, and I've gained a great respect for that ability because it's something that I wish I was better at. So I've enjoyed working with Mr. Schanauer. He's always been insightful and helpful and explaining the little caveats that I didn't know or missed. And so he certainly has made a great impression on the staff here, just based on what I'm hearing and what I've seen in my short time. Thank you, Mr. Schanauer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Appreciate that. Any other commissioners?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Vice Chair Hall, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I started the commission in 2008. And so I remember Ashley when I believe he was in staff. He was one of the staff attorneys before he became a hearing examiner. And I have to share all the comments that have been made about him. He quiet, unassuming, but distinguished at the same time, very courteous and thorough when you dealt with him. He and I had to serve on a committee to come up with, I guess, advice about something having to do with personnel training or something. I can't remember, but I remember really enjoying working with him then, because he was so just so calm and smart and cooperative and has such a gentle nature. He was just a pleasure to work with. I was really glad to see that he was chosen as a hearing examiner, because he seemed like just the right kind of person to do it. And I completely agree with what Commissioner Byrd just said about his ability to just stay focused on everything, but run a very orderly hearing that really, I think, helps all the attorneys practicing before him function. And, you know, people have covered a lot here, and I want to adopt and accept everybody else's comments as my own, as the wording says at the end of our orders when we adopt the recommended decisions. And not to overwork a word, but I would say Ashley is definitely a pillar for the commission that we'll miss. We'll eventually, fill the shoes. And Anthony, I'm sure, will be certainly up to the job. But because of his own, for lack of a better word, his aura, I guess, of peacefulness and strength, I think Ashley is somebody we're all going to miss, because I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm around him, it certainly lowers my blood pressure a little bit, because I know I'm going to get straight talk. I'm going to be heard. And more than that, I'll be appreciated as a human being. I think Ashley really makes everyone feel respected and heard. And that's invaluable as a hearing examiner and as a human being. So I certainly wish him the best. Ashley, I wish you the best in retirement. And I hope you'll think of us and come back and visit with us someday, and maybe have lunch with all of us and continue to be our friend. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Commissioner Fishman.
Yeah. So basically ditto to what everybody has said. And I think the words of Ashley's colleagues in the hearing examiner crew speak volumes for who he is and how he works with folks. And I'm really pissed off at him for leaving now. I don't know how he could possibly consider his own personal life ahead of us, for God's sakes. But boy, we're really going to miss him. And I think the one thing that I would just emphasize a little bit more about Ashley is his incredible courage. He just stands up to the issue and calls it as he sees it, no matter how controversial and no matter how much pressure there might be. And, there's kind of a conundrum here. I don't know how you explain it, that he is just so low key, yet as John Reynolds points out, he's apparently a media rock star. How you do those two things, I don't know. He's a miracle worker, but his courage is just amazing. And I think it's so important for somebody who's in this kind of job. And, I can say that for, frankly, all of our hearing examiners. They call it like they see it. And Ashley's leadership, I'm sure, has helped create that environment. And Ashley, we're really going to miss you. And you are courageous, but you also are stubborn, as Judy said. So sometimes I had to put up with that when we disagreed. But, that's what this whole job is about. We've got staff, we've got hearing examiners, we've got commissioners, and we're going to disagree. And it's in hashing it out that hopefully we all arrive at better decisions. And, I think the whole organization is really stepped up to that and is good at that, quite frankly. But Ashley, you're the best, and we're going to miss you. And now I'll shut up.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ashley, thank you. I watched you as well during the public hearings. I saw huge binders on your desk. I saw boxes filled with documents. And you were sifting through the documents one page at a time. Some pages you would put to the left, some pages you would put to the right. And I was anxious. I was anxious to see your recommended decision, which was going to come along like 6 months later or 5 months later. And I said to myself, how can Ashley sift through 5, 6 boxes on one particular case? And I couldn't, I just couldn't, I can't do that, but it seems like he was doing his job very well. And yes, your recommended decision came when I wanted to see where you're headed to with a certain decision. And that is remarkable, in my opinion. Absolutely remarkable. And like all my colleagues have said, you were just calm doing your work. There was a time also I had to come to my office on a weekend. And Ashley, you were walking in 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning to get caught up with your work. That is a commitment to get to the bottom lines of the issues. That is a true commitment. And you also stated during the hearings that you asked a question. Am I the only one that is reading between the lines that there's certain information that is being withheld from the public? That was a question to all the parties during the hearing. That is remarkable. In early part of 2021, the first 3 or 4 months in 2021, you also scolded the commission and said, I would like to be respected. Thank you, Ashley. You were respected. Everything calmed down. No, there was no more questions. Lastly, you are smart. You made a smart decision at the right time to retire because you want to work for the people, and that any cases or examining cases, it was for the right reason to get to the very last penny on a certain rate increase, or whether a certain domestic water issue should be overturned or it should be supported. All those recommendations that you have done, I don't call it a recommendation. I call it top-notch decisions from your part, and you relate it to the commission. Thank you, Ashley. I wish you well in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Wow, what a tribute. Just incredible remarks. I mean, who doesn't love cheesesteaks? I don't understand that. Anyway, and by the way, I used to be an Eagles fan, but that was back when Ron Jaworski was quarterback. I'm really dating myself. But I was a fan at that time, Ashley and others, but I'm sorry, today it's Arizona Cardinals. It's just, we're chasing this dream, right, for a Super Bowl. Just a bit frustrating, but in all seriousness, Ashley, actually, I got to know you through your recommended decisions that you did with Anthony on the San Juan Generating Station, the two cases, abandonment, securitization, and then the replacement power. And I was just amazed at how the decision weaved through just a whole array of complex issues and interventions by parties. And but really, I think my complete respect for Ashley didn't come about until I saw him in action, as others have mentioned. I don't know if it was Judy or maybe Cynthia said that don't be fooled by his soft-spoken demeanor, watching him in action. During the merger hearings, I saw someone who is, as Judy mentioned, steely and focused in enforcing the rules of procedure, exacting discipline on the part of some of the parties and their attorneys. So I was just I was amazed. And being in government for so long, it's just simply tragic to see so much experience walk out the door, especially in an agency as important as ours, in an agency as small as ours. And so, in a way, I'm grieving a bit at the loss of this institutional knowledge. But I think we all know full well that, we all have our lives outside of work, and that Ashley and his wife want to enjoy their retirement. And I think there's no greater honor than looking back on your public service career with pride and having validation from your coworkers and others. I think is just kind of that banana sundae with the whipped cream and the cherry on top. And so I'm going to miss you, Ashley, and I know that our agency is going to dearly miss you. And I just, as a lifelong public servant, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your public service. You're a class act. All right, and I guess it's time to hear from Ashley himself.
Wow,
Ashley,
good morning.
you there? Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Really, thanks for those kind thoughts. I really appreciate them from everyone. I have some things to say, but I first wanted to actually respond to some of the things that I've heard this morning. I wanted to particularly agree with what's been said about Mike Rippiger. I worked closely with Mike when I was with the legal division, and it was a joy. I mean, not all state employees are the tops. He is. He knew his job. He knows his job. You could always rely on anything he said. You could trust what he said. And I was always worried that he was going to retire before me. And I'm just glad that I'm retiring before him. I really hope he sticks around a while for everyone's benefit. Second thing, gopher traps. Yeah, I used to make gopher traps, and I use gopher traps a lot here out in El Dorado, and I do not use the gopher trap types that I made when I was doing it. I found much better traps, and so I won't name the manufacturer of the traps that I had been making, but there are better ones out there. The next thing is, I truly never planned to be a lawyer. I always expected and planned I was going to be a tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that never worked out. So here I am. I ended up as a lawyer. But anyway, more seriously, I mean, I want to thank everybody for you folks for the chance to work here all these years. I've thoroughly enjoyed my job. I've worked 5 years in the legal division, 12 years as a hearing examiner, including 3 as a chief. I'm proud of the work we've done together at the PRC, the commissioners, the general counsel, staff, ASD, and especially the hearing examiner group. The hearing examiner group, we deal with, well, the whole commission deals with important issues. They're difficult issues, and we try to do it in a way that's fair to all the parties. And we try and do it in a way that's based on the evidence that comes before us. And as I said, I'm especially proud of the work that the hearing examiner's office does. Our jobs are difficult. Our people work really hard. And I'm glad to see that Anthony Medeiros is going to be taking over as the chief hearing examiner. You all know him, and he'll do an excellent job. One final thing, as a lawyer, we deal with lots of issues, important issues, and most issues that we deal with are important issues. But the one thing that I found surprisingly gratifying as a lawyer and as a hearing examiner was the opportunity to meet all the people that I dealt with over the years. I mean, I don't think I could ever, in any other type of job, deal with such a wide variety of people. We deal with everyone at the commission. We deal with parties in our cases, their attorneys, their witnesses, expert witnesses, and we deal with the public, the people who show up at our hearings with the nerve. It actually takes nerve to show up at a hearing and make a public comment and say what you really think, and hope and trust that the government's going to listen to you. That is impressive, and that's gratifying. And anyway, I thank you all for your support over the years. I'm looking forward to retirement. I hear from everyone that it's great, and I wish you all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. We have a special request from Mark Benton to say a few words. Mark Benton, if you could just make your way to the hot seat there.
Well, I was actually going to do this during public comment, but I'd be glad to do it now. I had talked to John Reynolds here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was asking for Ashley's phone number because I wanted to talk to him, but I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate considering he's a hearing examiner. We have cases in front of the commission, so I didn't want it to look like I was trying to say anything positive to Ashley because we had a pending case. But I absolutely wanted to say something about Ashley. I've been around Ashley, I think, since he started in the legal division. I remember running into him in cases, and what I wanted to talk about rather than the cases is just the way he handled himself and the way he treated me with professionalism. He is such a professional gentleman. We had a lot of small talk. There was a lot of intense cases, and I would always want to talk about Philadelphia and the Boston Red Sox and those kind of things. And he was always willing to do that, even though he was right in the middle of an intense case and he was going into his office to contemplate things. Ashley has been so professional to me, and I just wish him the best because I wanted to call him and let him know what I thought of him. And I think very highly of Mr. Schanhauer, and I just wanted to get up here and say that. I was also going to do this during public comment because I'm going to be gone next week, and I know John Reynolds is going to be retiring. He's retiring June 30th, and I've been working with John for quite some time in his role as utilities staff and my role as executive director of regulatory. And John is a very dedicated and loyal employee of the commission. We've had some staff employees come over to PNM, and I can't tell you how highly they speak of John. And I wanted to just also share what I think of John. He is such a knowledgeable person. The commission's been very fortunate to have him as the utility division director. He knows technical matters. He's fair. He's balanced. He's going to be dearly missed, and I'm going to miss working with John. So I just wanted to make some quick remarks about Mr. Shanhauer and John Reynolds, since I won't be here next week. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. And I believe we don't have any special guests. So since we're already on public comment, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fishman, did you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one final comment regarding Ashley, who's always so thorough in the decisions that he wrote. But I think he missed an important comment here in his comments today. And something he needs to point out to his successor, Anthony, who happens to be a big Golden State Warriors fan, even though he's not a big Philadelphia fan. And Ashley, you should have taken the opportunity to point out to Anthony that the Golden State Warriors franchise originated in Philadelphia. So I couldn't let that go unnoticed. And Anthony, please don't take this negatively, but I also am a Warriors fan, but I'm proud to know that they originated in Philadelphia.
I've let him know about that.
Oh, thank you, Ashley. I couldn't let that go unsaid.
Thank you, though, for pointing it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Any other public comment? Any public comments? Okay. Yes.
I have no one else signed up for public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Hans, if you could throw the agenda back up there. Thank you, sir. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and move on to consideration and approval of prior meeting minutes. You have the minutes of the May 25th, 2022 open meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Hall and a second by Commissioner Byrd. Any discussion on the motion? Michael Smith, roll call vote.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
She may have to unmute, Mike.
I can't see all the screen, so I don't know if she's still on.
She's probably on. I think her number's on, but it's mute. Wow.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Oh, it disappeared.
Yeah, I don't see her on.
No, I don't either now.
So I will put the count as 4-0 in favor of approving the prior meeting minutes for May 25th, 2022.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Members of the commission, we have a consent agenda with one amendment, and that is the removal of case 22-0130 TREN.
That item that was removed was on the regular agenda, Mr. Chairman. The consent still remains the same.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. All right, so you have the consent agenda as presented. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Byrd and a second by Vice Chair Hall. I'll let Mike go ahead and read the captions, and then we'll entertain any discussion if there is any. Michael Smith.
So the vote would be on the consent action items appearing on the agenda. The transportation matters are case 22-00123 TRM in the matter of the application of Mora County DBA Mora County Ambulance Service for reissuance of certificate number 15506 to provide ambulance service. That's a potential order regarding the application for reissuance. Case 22-00125 TRM in the matter of the application of the City of Hobbs, DBA Hobbs Municipal Ambulance Service for reissuance of certificate number 12327 to provide ambulance service. Again, also a potential order regarding application for reissuance. Case 22-00126 TRM in the matter of the application of the Village of Dora DBA Village of Dora Ambulance for reissuance of certificate number 38200 to provide ambulance service. Also a potential order regarding application for reissuance. Case 22-00148 TRM in the matter of the application of City of Raton DBA Raton Ambulance Service for reissuance of certificate number 12326 and temporary authority to provide ambulance service. This is a potential order regarding the temporary authority application. Utility matters are case 22-00045 UT, a joint petition of Echo Wireless Broadband Inc. and Resound Networks LLC for Echo Wireless to relinquish its ETC designation and transfer its FCC CAF Phase 2 census blocks to Resound Networks LLC. This is a potential order approving the scheduling order. And finally, case 22-03 UT in the matter of the formal complaints of Justin Jones against Moongate Water Company. This is a potential order dismissing the complaint. I would take the roll call. Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
And Commissioner Vicente Aguilar is on the line.
Aye.
Yes. So we have those orders are approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go ahead and move on to regular action items. In the case of 22-00153, TREN in the matter of the investigation of WHC Worldwide NM LLC doing business as Z-Trip New Mexico, and we have a potential order to show cause and cease and desist. Hans?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This matter comes before the Commission upon the petition for orders to show cause and to cease and desist from the Transportation Division staff. The proposed order that I've circulated to you requires WHC Worldwide doing business as Z-Trip to cease and desist business operations associated with the services of a transportation network company until Z-Trip can demonstrate compliance with the alleged violations and receives approval from the Commission. The order gives Z-Trip until July 1st, 2022 to file a response as to show cause why they should not be fined for violations of the Motor Carrier Act. The order appoints a hearing examiner to set an expedited hearing and to make a recommended decision to the Commission as to if Z-Trip's operations prior to the order endangered public health and safety, and what, if any, proposed fines or penalties should be made for violations of the Motor Carrier Act. The respondent Z-Trip was brought to the attention of the Commission based upon a complaint made to the Transportation Division. Transportation staff reviewed and alleges that Z-Trip's dispatching service is out of the state of Utah and allows drivers to indiscriminately accept or decline a pickup request without notifying the would-be passenger. This type of service appears to be more aligned with the practices of a transportation network company, which under 65.7.4, the provider must be certified with the Commission to be a TNC prior to providing such service. Staff has requested that Z-Trip be sent an order to cease and desist its operations and show cause why it should not be fined for violations of the Motor Carrier Act. I recommend the proposed order, as it will assign a hearing officer to preside over an expedited hearing to determine the extent of Z-Trip's operations and as to if Z-Trip endangered any public health and safety, and make a recommendation to the Commission as to any fines or penalties for the violations. The order does, given our current schedule, gives the hearing examiner authority to extend the hearing time as needed for purposes of scheduling. I would like to point out the proposed order that I circulated did say that it would ordering a cease and desist of all business operations I have changed that from all business operations, since Z-Trip is a certificated taxi cab company, to just cease and desisting the business operations associated with the services of a transportation network company, for clarification, because that appears to be the crux of the complaint and so far staff's request for the order to show cause. So they would still be allowed to function as a general taxi cab service. We are just asking them to come into compliance with if they are operating a transportation network company service within the state. And I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Hey, Hans, thank you. Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
So I just wanted to follow up on that last comment that Hans made and ask him, so how is the wording corrected then? And I guess it's paragraph A, it is therefore ordered, the cease and desist language.
Correct. I think I originally, the one I circulated to you said cease and desist all business operations.
It does. So how did you change?
Yeah, I have now changed that to say business operations associated with the service of a transportation network company.
Okay.
I don't want to give the illusion that I'm shutting down all their business operations, as like I said,
I see. Okay.
As part of their business, they are running a general taxi cab service.
Yeah, I see it. It seems like you have both language here. So at least the copy I'm looking at, all you need to do is take out the word, all one needs to do is take out the word all.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. So I'll make a motion to approve the order.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the order as amended. Do
As
I hear
amended.
a second? Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Fishman. Under discussion, Hans, why couldn't this be resolved just through staff, as opposed to resorting to this measure? I mean, are the number of complaints, do we consider them to be so prevalent that we have to take this action, or like what is our protocol?
The cease and desist function of this order really protects the commission. It's done that we have knowledge that there may potentially be a transportation network company operating within the state that is not certificated by, without certificated by the commission. And since we have knowledge of that, it's in our best interest to issue a cease and desist until we know they are fully compliant with the regulations. As usual, though, I do anticipate staff and respondent to be working fairly quickly to figure out how the best way for them to come into compliance and offer, and they are always welcome to put forth a settlement, and that they have reached a compromise or an agreement that I would bring before the commission for approval in lieu of an expedited hearing. But our procedure would say that since we are issuing the cease and desist, that to give them the opportunity of due process to plead their side before a hearing examiner, if they so elected.
So is the primary issue that the dispatch is located in Utah? Because I understand these kinds of transportation networks use these apps. And so is physical dispatch an issue, or physical location?
The location I do not believe is an issue. It is more the fact that if a person puts a request through the app, that they are either notified or not notified that they will be picked up. I believe the complaint that was forwarded to the transportation was an individual that requested dispatch at 2 o'clock in the morning and was not picked up. which stranded that person. So that's to me, that's what triggers health and safety questions as to if a would-be passenger is actually getting notified that they have not, that a requested call has not been dispatched to them.
Okay, thank you, Hans. That's all I had. Any other further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the order as amended. Okay, hearing none. Michael Smith, roll call vote.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go ahead and move on to utility matters. We're under the regular action agenda in the case of 18-00214 UT in the matter of an order to show cause as to why Rosa Joint Ventures and New Mexico Partnership should not be found in violation of the Public Utility Act and Commission rules. We will be considering the potential order regarding failure to close upon transfer agreement, status of water service, and management of the water system. Russell Fitz, please kick it off.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
you can.
So I can be very quick about this. This is an order that I believe has incorporated, the proposed order I prepared, I believe incorporates all of the commissioners' proposals that were made at last week's open meeting, as I said in my memo. The proposed order would reinstate the accrual of fines against Rosa Joint Venture in the amount of $300 per business day, which would continue to accrue until a consultant is hired by Rosa Joint Venture to handle the processes at San Juan County and the Office of the State Engineer. And the fines would continue to accrue until Rosa Joint Venture files in this docket such a contract with a consulting or engineering firm. So the firm, the consultant would actually be the interface on behalf of RGV to get these processes done. Because as the commissioner will recall, the indications in staff's affidavit, or not the indications, the statements of staff's affidavit in response to the second set of bench requests indicated that San Juan County and the Office of the State Engineer stand ready to process any applications to be filed by Rosa Joint Venture and or Samarito, the mutual domestic. So it appears that it continues to be the fault of Rosa Joint Venture and Samarito for the delay. They apparently are still not being diligent. So that is why I believe Commissioner Fishman had recommended reinstituting the accrual of fines. Staff had made a proposal in their affidavit that was discussed last week to require the partners, they actually may be joint ventures of RJV. Rosa Joint Venture is described as a partnership in the caption. It actually reorganized during the pendency of the case. But in any event, the individuals behind the company, to require them to make an investment in the business to cover the costs of the necessary repairs and improvements to the system. I had said at the open meeting, I was not sure whether the Public Utility Act provided the commission with the power to issue such an order to investors to make additional investment. But I discussed it with OGC, and even though that power is not expressly delegated to the commission in the Public Utility Act, the express delegation of certain duties to the commission, such as the duty to ensure safe, reliable water service, implies the power to take an action such as this. So I've included that as well. The proposed order would require Rosa Joint Venture on or before June 24th, so that's within 9 days, to retain the services of an engineering firm to provide an estimate of the current costs to make the repairs and improvements to the water and wastewater systems necessary to provide safe, reliable water service to all customers of the systems, and to file the contract with the engineering firm in this docket. So as the commission will recall, staff in their affidavit had cited a 2019 estimate made by the engineering firm Moles and Corbin, which had arrived at a figure of $1,022,000 back in 2019 for the necessary repairs and improvements to the water and wastewater systems. So, but as Mr. Chairman pointed out, they will need an updated estimate and probably more detailed estimate to actually do the work. So the proposed order would order the joint venturers in Rosa Joint Venture to invest the total amount of that estimate within 10 business days of receipt of the estimate, and would order Rosa Joint Venture to complete the repairs and improvements described in the estimate within a reasonable time after receipt of the estimate. The proposed order uses the term reasonable time because it's unknown exactly how long those repairs and improvements will take, and it may be that the limited number of engineering firms available and contractors available to undertake those repairs and improvements may require we just can't really predict what amount of time that will take to actually prepare to complete those. The proposed order would state that the commission will monitor Rosa Joint Venture's progress and may take action upon any indication of lack of diligence in completing such repairs and improvements on the part of Rosa Joint Venture. There were other approaches as well. I believe Mr. Chairman had called them a multi-pronged or multi-faceted approach. Obviously, this order is a multifaceted approach to this, very serious state of affairs at Rosa Joint Venture. But there were also some other approaches, including reaching out to the New Mexico Environment Department by formal letter, and reaching out to New Mexico's delegation to Congress in a formal letter. I haven't had a chance to do that, to draft those yet. And I apologize for that. I can draft those letters and bring them back next week. There was also discussion of referring the matter for enforcement by the Attorney General's office. And I'll first need to reach out by phone to find out whom to contact there and what they will need from the commission in order to pursue such enforcement. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Russell. Any questions for Russell?
Mr. Chair, I'll let
Commissioner Fishman
go.
and then Vice Chair Hall.
Well, okay.
Commissioner Fishman.
You're
on mute, sir.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hall. You go first.
Well, okay, Mr. Chair, I was going to make a motion to approve the order, and I don't have any further discussion. But if Commissioner Fishman wants to discuss, please let him.
Okay, thank you.
I will second the order, but just make a quick comment. We should also follow up with Public Affairs and maybe Conservation Committee, I don't know, in the legislature, and see what ideas we can get from them on setting up a better situation for the future.
Oh, agreed. I agree with that, Mr. Chair, completely. And I will communicate with Commissioner Fishman outside the meeting and try to develop a plan.
Thank you, Commissioners Fishman and Hall. Any other discussion by commissioners?
Mr.
We
Chair.
have a motion and a second. Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
Couple of, in the order, it states that they're to retain services of an engineering firm within 10 days. And it isn't entirely clear that it isn't directing that they have the cost estimate within that 10 days.
Yes, Commissioner Byrd, it would just be the contract that they need to enter into, retaining a firm for this purpose that they need to do within 10 days. And then the estimate, of course, it's on, I don't know exactly how much time that would take, and that would be partially a function of what the engineering consulting firm has on its plate and what how long it takes to analyze the situation. So the 10 days was just for the contract to have a firm review that, and then let's see, how do I have it phrased in the let's see. I'm just looking at the actual language of the order. So looking at the actual order itself, on page 15, the ordering paragraphs, the paragraph A states that the fine shall accrue, shall be reinstated and accrue until RGV files in this docket a contract with a consulting or engineering firm. So just the contract itself, retaining them. Well, I'm sorry, actually that's the contract for the to guide the processes with the order of the state engineer.
What it says is to retain the services of an engineering firm to provide an estimate of the current cost to make the repairs. So it makes it sound like it's saying they need to have the estimate. And I just want it verbally stated that what we're expecting is the contract for the engineering firm to do the work. We're not telling the engineering firm when they have to get it done.
Yes, and Commissioner Bird, you're right. In paragraph B of the ordering paragraphs, Rosa Joint Venture is ordered on or before June 24th to retain the services of an engineering firm to make the estimate and to file the contract with the engineering firm this docket. And then I'm glad you pointed this out because I just noticed a mistake. It then says upon receipt of the estimate, which has no particular deadline on it, RGV shall file the estimate in this docket. But I left out the word receipt. So
yeah, I'm not looking for a word change. I just wanted to specify that.
Yes.
Because it
Yes.
is. So on the second note, and this is just commentary now on my part. So the installation, operation, maintenance of water supply systems is what I do. And I am willing to bet that Commissioner Maestas has designed these systems. I'm wondering if there isn't some value in going to this facility, seeing what there is, what the problems, the issues are, so that we have a good grasp on where the solution actually lies. Anyway, that's it for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bird. I do have some comments, but I want to see if Commissioner Vicente Aguilar would like to add to the discussion. We do have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the order as presented.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank Russell for working on this case. It's a very difficult situation. And Russell, thank you very much for gauging all the parties and working with staff and working with the commissioners. We can't agree on every single item, but you were able to embrace it in a way that's going to be best for the commission. Thank you, Russell. And I am prepared to vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. You know, I'll admit I was a bit frustrated in that we didn't have a clear course of action. I think many of you know that I voiced my frustration over the lack of context in the way we were dealing with this. We were focused solely on the transaction itself, the transfer of ownership and all the conditions surrounding it. But you know, in the back of my mind, I was just wondering what about the system? Do we have proper context in understanding the current condition of the system and the impacts to its users? And I think now it's becoming crystal clear that this is an emergency situation. This is not, it's not urgent. I think urgent is not enough. And as I look back at all the steps we took, I think that this commission was more than reasonable in giving the parties an opportunity to complete the transaction. But now that we've found out more information, I'm really proud right now to, at least from my perspective, state that this order now is comprehensive enough and has the right context and the right urgency to really start addressing this problem. But I don't think we ought to take our foot off the gas pedal. I really think that, Russell, when you correspond with NMED and the Attorney General, I think you ought to communicate this as an emergency or a crisis, that as Commissioner Byrd suggested, that probably needs to be, I think a field visit is very much in order. We've been receiving firsthand accounts now from water users, and an elderly couple whose spouse is homebound and has to bring water, no water, lack of water pressure for fire suppression. This is unacceptable. And I think we as a commission, in looking at this order, are doing as much as we can, but we need to get the attention of the Attorney General and NMED. I wish that someone could take notice and clearly declare that this water system is not in the public interest, that it be acquired by eminent domain, but I'm not aware. I know San Juan County is not in the business of water and wastewater systems. That's how egregious I think this situation is. But I think this order really steps it up and is comprehensive. So, Russell, thank you. As Commissioner Vicente Aguilar said, you did capture all the issues that we voiced in the previous meeting that led to the development of this order. So I do support the order as written.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
I'd just like to make one more comment, which is that I appreciate that Russell communicated enough with staff, and staff put forth the notion that, or the established precedent, I guess, that this commission has the authority to order our ROSA joint ventures to invest in the system. And that is seemed to be what made this next course of events possible in the short term. And I don't know whether that was based on the fact that staff also was aware of all these other assets they possessed, but in any case, and also that the point was made that power was implied in the express delegation of duties to the commission in the Public Utility Act. That kind of implied power concept has come before us before, or we've discussed it before in other contexts. And I think this is an excellent example of how it comes into play. And I think the commission should bear this in mind going forward when we run into conundrums like we run into in this company. And if we find ourselves in another situation where we have a company that's not performing, but we are aware that they have other assets and they have some financial wherewithal to make investments, that we take this action again. I haven't seen this discussion arise before in water cases like this in the past, and I think it's real important that we appreciate that under certain circumstances, the commission has implied authority to take action and issue orders, and we should exercise it. And that arises when we have no other mechanism for making sure we're doing our job. So I just wanted to make that point because I think this is an excellent example of where we can get somewhere in this case by using our implied authority. So
thank you, Vice Chair Hall. And this could be our version of the Flint, Michigan water emergency. And we cannot be asleep at the wheel. And I think we're taking bold action in this order. So if there's no further discussion, Mike Smith, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Michael. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next action item. It's in the case of 22-00154-UT in the matter of a notice of inquiry into the vegetation management practices of investor-owned utilities and co-ops. Judy, do you want to tee this up, or Vice Chair Hall? I don't know how you want to handle this.
I can do this.
Okay.
And I know that last week we already discussed this. I won't go into the background unless someone would like me to. The proposed order would open the inquiry into the vegetation management plans and procedures that electric public utilities currently have. And it states that investor-owned electric utilities and rural electric cooperative organizations shall provide the commission a copy of their current vegetation management plan and a copy of any other wildfire protection practices engaged in by the utility. The response shall be filed in the docket no later than the close of business, July 6th. I put that date in. Obviously, the commission can make it a later date. That's 2 weeks from today. And lastly, the order states that one or more workshops may be held by the commission for purpose of discussing existing and proposed vegetation management and other practices that may provide protection from wildfires under the current weather and climate conditions. And that would be scheduled by a single signature order of the commission.
All right, any questions for Judy or Vice Chair Hall? Vice Chair Hall, did you want to say anything else? I realized, like, at the last meeting, I was a little concerned that we had not consulted with New Mexico Rural Electric Co-op Association, but after reading the order, I think it's just fairly benign in that regard. I mean, we recognize they have existing vegetation management plans, but that we want proper context in preparing for wildfires through vegetation management. So I want to thank you, Vice Chair Hall, for bringing this forward.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do you have anything else to add or a motion to make?
Oh, yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the order.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Fishman. Any further discussion on the motion? One thing I will mention, as you recall, through our great work in delving into some of the consequential impact of the supply chain issues, particularly to co-ops, we had a meeting with Homeland Security. And at that time, the acting secretary was the governor's, I think, deputy chief of staff, Diego Alarcon. But he did reach out to me and he wants to continue the dialogue with our agency over the issues of supply chain issues. And I think we can add vegetation management and cybersecurity. We've been trying to arrange a meeting with appropriate state agency staff. So I think we have a pretty good agenda to maybe reestablish a dialogue with appropriate state agencies through the governor's office. And I invite Vice Chair Hall and I to work on this, but he did reach out, which I thought was very gracious. Excuse me, that's all I had.
Well, Mr. Chair, that's very interesting and gratifying to hear. And, I look forward to us working more with the other appropriate state agencies through the governor's office. That's just the way to go, I think.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to approve the order as presented. All right, hearing none. Mike Smith, roll call vote.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. This is in case 22-00155-UT in the matter of a joint protest and motion to suspend Southwestern Public Service Company's advice notice number 303. We have a potential order, and Judy, please go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. This is an interesting case, and I'd like to go through the background first in order to get the commission fully briefed. On May 17th, SPS filed its advice notice number 303, which proposes a standby service rider, which would go into effect if not suspended by the commission on or before tomorrow, June 16th, 2022. Advice notice number 303 specifies new rates for standby service that SPS proposes to charge its customers with interconnected generation, also known as DG, systems. Attached to the advice notice was an affidavit of Mr. Luth, who states that SPS was required to file this advice notice with it according to the certification of stipulation, which was approved by the commission in the most recent rate case number 20-00238. The stipulation specifically stated, quote, SPS agrees to file a standby rate tariff within 90 days of receiving the final order in this case, including a standby tariff that's appropriate for a solar generation facility. SPS will confer with interested parties in designing that tariff. Mr. Luth's affidavit stated that they did confer and that it is appropriate for solar generation, that standby capacity reservation fees of 10% are the applicable standard. And subsequently, there was a joint protest filed on June 9th, 2022, and a motion to suspend the advice notice 303. It was filed by the New Mexico Large Customer Group, Occidental Petroleum Limited, and the federal executive agencies. The protest asserts that the advice notice number 303 is a rate increase on customers having DG systems. And that therefore they protest that. In addition, they state that it is not in accordance with the certification of stipulation or Rule 17.1 to 10 NMAC will not result in fair, just, and reasonable rates, and requested that the commission suspend the advice notice before it goes into effect, and requested the commission hold a hearing as to whether or not it complied with the certification of stipulation and the final order adopting it. On June 8th, Louisiana Energy Services filed a response to this joint protest and stated that it generally agreed the commission should suspend advice notice number 303. And it also has concerns. Subsequently, there was a protest and complaint filed by REIA, which is Renewable Energy Industries Association of New Mexico, Vote Solar, and CCAE. They asserted it was a rate increase on customers having DG systems. They assert that Rule 570.12 prohibits rates such as these. And then just yesterday, SPS filed a response to the protests and motions to suspend. It was not an answer to the complaint that the REIA group asserted. For all of these reasons, the proposed order recommends that REIA groups protest and complaint be treated as a complaint, first off, and therefore SPS should answer the complaint within 20 days. In addition, the proposed order would suspend advice notice number 303 pending a determination on many items, whether probable cause exists for the complaint, whether to designate a hearing examiner, whether to hold a public hearing, whether to approve the proposed standby rate without a public hearing, and or whether SPS should propose an alternative that is cost-based, reasonable, just, and based on cost causation principles and in compliance with the stipulation. In addition, within 20 days, SPS shall file a response to the joint protest filed by New Mexico Large Customer Group, OPL, and FEA. And then within 7 days of receiving SPS's answer and SPS's response, staff shall and other parties may file a reply that addresses each and every one of SPS's answers and responses. Staff shall and other parties may recommend advice notice should go into effect without a public hearing, or recommend that advice notice should not go into effect without a public hearing, and state the reasons. And I stand for questions. I think the takeaway here is that advice notice number 303 is suspended pending a determination on all the issues raised by the joint protests and by the complaint.
Thank you, Judy. Any questions for Judy? Do I hear a
Mr.
motion
Chair?
to approve the? Yes,
Mr.
Vice Chair
Chair,
Hall.
I'll make a motion to approve the order.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and I'll go ahead and second that. Any discussion? Any discussion on the order?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
All
this
right.
is not the first time we've seen something like this and that before the commission.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Smith, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
The order is approved by a vote of 5-0.
Great, thank you, Michael. Okay, let's move on to discussion items. Electric IOU profiles, format and availability. Commissioner Fishman.
Yes. I've always felt there should be some summary information about our electric IOUs that's easily available to, frankly, everyone within the agency, stakeholders, and to the general public as well. So you've probably seen some emails going back and forth, and I've had John Olmsted working on putting together some formats and some ideas. And what I'd like to do is he's done a very meticulous job of pulling some data together and putting together a format for that information and some of the key items. And I thought it'd be a good idea for him to present that work today, so commissioners can take a look at it and comment in real time and tell us what looks good, what makes sense, and what might not make sense, and what might be missing. And with that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to John and have him present a format that we've done for PNM and get your thoughts and comments. So, John, are you there?
John Olmsted. And if you need to present any information, please share your screen.
Okay, I need to have Hans pull up the PDF for PNM that I sent to him this morning.
Just give me 1 second here, John.
All right. Here we go. I hope it's large enough for people to see. But this, for all, oh, there we go. This, for all intents and purposes, combines information from a variety of sources. Specifically with respect to PNM, the first item that we're looking at is the customer count of by FERC class, residential, commercial, industrial, and total, specifically for New Mexico for the year. And I'm looking at the average PNM customer count. I got that information from EIA, and the chart below it basically is, in other words, the table up above is 2021's customer count, and the chart below is the same information for the past 5 years by FERC class, with residential in blue, commercial in orange, industrial in gray, and total in gold. The next table, again, also coming from EIA, is the same FERC class information from EIA with regards to the megawatt hours sold specifically in New Mexico for PNM. And we have the annual megawatt hours. And then on the, was it over to the right, is the 5-year average growth rate for the megawatt hours shown, again, residential, commercial, industrial, and total with the same colors. On the third or second page, which would be the next.
John, if I may, just a quick comment.
Yes.
Oh, okay. If you go back to those first two charts,
yes.
Obviously there's not a lot of customer growth. And the actual use of electricity by PNM, and I'll just pick out residential customers, appears to be holding pretty steady. And that would be in spite of our energy efficiency efforts. But of course, there's a lot of upward pressure on use as more uses go to electricity. But that's the kind of, as you're looking at this, it gives you a real good sense of the growth rate of the utility and the growth rate of usage and what implications that might have going forward. So,
yes.
With that, go ahead. I just wanted to make that comment.
All right. Again, on the second page, we're looking specifically at the 2021 monthly usage per customer. Again, also for New Mexico for PNM. Residential is 579 kilowatt hours for 2021. Commercial is 5261. Industrial is just a touch under 900,000 megawatt hours. Or sorry, and actually there is a typo that megawatt hours should be kilowatt hours. And the total for all retail usage is 1,414 kilowatt hours. Off to the right, you've got the 5-year growth rate. And as you can see, by and large, residential, commercial, and total are fairly consistent. However, industrial has increased by an average of 14% per year over the last 5 years. Down below are a series of 4 charts. One, and by the way, the reason I'm using 4 charts is that the spread from the lowest monthly kilowatt hours per customer to the highest monthly kilowatt hours per customer is so large that you lose detail in a single chart. So that's why I'm now showing 4 individual charts. Say for P&M's, the residential chart, as you can see, the first, the number is 562, then we go to 580, 570, 601, and 579. The 579 matches the 2021 number up in the chart. And the overall growth rate is basically the end point minus the beginning point. What was it? Basically, was it, over, divided by 5 for 5 years.
Mr. Chair, excuse me for a minute. Mr. Chair, could you please ask whoever has this chart to send it to us? It wasn't forwarded to us in the agenda, and I would like to have a copy that I can look at in paper form.
I will forward that now, Commissioner.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Go ahead, John.
Okay. The second, the chart below is the commercial, same idea. Starting at 5848, ending up at 5261. That's actually a negative monthly usage per customer growth of 2.01%. The third table would be industrial, and we're looking at much bigger usages per customer. And right now, we start at 529,472 and end up with just a little under 900,000. And as you can see, the difference is fairly significant, and that's what gives us the 14% increase. And then the overall monthly kilowatt hours per customer, again, is pretty consistent with a growth rate of a 0.35%, starting at 1390 and ending up at 1414. I can make changes to these charts dealing specifically with the y-axis amounts. For an example, right now I'm using from 0 to 4 million kilowatt hours per customer. And be honest, the only reason I ended up doing that is that so far the information that I have for one of the other IOUs actually has industrial usage up to nearly 4 million. It's significantly between 3.5 to 4 million. And so I was trying to give a little bit of scale just within the P&M table or any of the other IOUs to give you an idea as like where they fall kind of within the other IOUs without actually showing it in their one in that particular IOU's utility profile. Okay.
So John, if I may interject.
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
if we can back up to, the prior page. If we're looking at the monthly kilowatt hours per customer,
Yes.
a couple things that I would point out is looking at the residential, it looks like in 2020, we may have had a little bit of a bump due to stay-at-home COVID, and maybe not as much of a bump as a lot of people might have expected. But it'd be interesting potentially to dig a little deeper there. And on the industrial customers, where we see that big growth, my first take looking at that is probably primarily the Facebook effect, with Facebook coming on in the last several years.
Okay, with respect to PNM, actually, I don't believe that's the case because as I recall, that particular rate and that particular customer is not classified FERC industrial, it's classified FERC commercial.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And that the customers who are classified as FERC industrial by themselves have been the average monthly usage has been increasing pretty much every year since 2017.
So can you? Oh, there's. So I'm looking at commercials looking pretty flat.
Yes.
But
actually down slightly.
Yeah, but industrial's going up. So anyway, it'd be interesting to find out.
Okay.
And that was it. I just wanted to, I thought it would be helpful as we go through this and you're pointing out what's in the charts, that the kinds of things that these charts, the kind of thinking they might spur.
All right. Okay, I guess then we go to page 3, and this is 2021 sales dollars is the table, and that's in thousands. So, Rich, if you really want to look at it, it's the equivalent of residential would be 484,720,000, which is equivalent to $484.72 million, with a growth rate of 3.05%. Commercial is a little lower at $441,970,000. Industrial is now at $123,701, with a growth rate of 8.28%, and with a total of all 4 of those, or all 3 of those classes being at 1,050,391 for an overall 5-year average growth rate of 2.32%. In this instance, there is enough room. There's not as much a spread between the highest level of sales dollars and the lowest level of sales dollars, so that we could actually include them on a single page. And that's essentially what the chart below shows. And it also mentions the fact that for PNM, the annual sales are for New Mexico only. Okay, then the next page, which in this particular instance would be page 4, starts, well, actually is the 2021 bill per customer in dollars. Again, residential, commercial, industrial, and total. With residential being at $84.01, commercial $624 even, industrial 53,090.56, and the average for all customers is $162.09. Again, the difference between $84 and the industrial at 53,000 is so big that you would lose that you'd lose detail in an individual chart, even if it was as big and could fit on the remainder of the page. So I have 4 individual charts, residential, and it gives you the annual numbers, average bill per customer for each year from 2017 all the way through 2021. Again, same with commercial, same with industrial. And as you can see with industrial, you're dealing with a much, much greater increase by year. Again, it's over 15.5%. And you're dealing with, literally, you're dealing with an increase for every year. And then the total bill per customer is about the actual growth rate's about 1.58%. And that's essentially what page 4 tells you about P&M's first-class customers in New Mexico. Okay, the 5th page begins with the 2021 rate per kilowatt hour.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Vice Chair Hall, go ahead.
So these pages I have aren't numbered, but I was interested in something Mr. Olmsted was saying about something on page 4, where he was referring to the 15% increase of some metric in the industrial. I see the 14% on the second page, I guess, that we've looked at, but I don't see a 15% anywhere unless I'm just missing it. I see it. I see it.
On the top of that page, specifically with respect to industrial,
bills.
the average bill is 15.56%.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was looking ahead.
Okay. Again, with respect to the average rate per kilowatt hour in 2021, again, also in New Mexico, residential is 14.51 cents, commercial is 11.86, industrial is 0.0590, and with the total being 11.46%, and their corresponding growth rates are immediately to their right. The chart specifically shows from 0 to 16 cents what the average rates are per year, and was it with residential at the top. The next one is 1186, which is commercial. Right below that is the 1146, which is total, it's the total for all classes. And at the very bottom would be the average industrial rate, which goes from 5.64% or 64 cents to 5.90 cents. Okay. And at the very bottom of that same page is some summary information about P&M 2021 financials. The first item that is currently highlighted is the allowed ROE, and that is supposed to be P&M's allowed ROE in their most recent fully adjudicated rate case. Below that are the total assets in thousands of dollars, total debt in thousands of dollars, total equity in thousands of dollars, and the 5-year growth rate of those in actual, in terms of their actual financial reports. Right below that is the current ratio, then the quick ratio, total debt to total equity in terms of percent, and total debt to total capital also in terms of percent. And then the final item on here is the return on equity. And that's 9.71.
So, John, again, I'll make a comment looking at the financial numbers, is I know that in rate cases, the debt to equity ratio for PNM, I believe is pretty close to 50-50.
Yes.
And on debt to capital, here we're showing debt as 61%. That's a pretty big deviation. So again, that would be something we would want to look into to see if it's actual or if there was some kind of adjustment that occurs during the rate case that leads to that disparity.
Okay. I've got that noted. Okay, and then on the next page is basically PNM's reliability statistics, specifically again relating to New Mexico only. There are 4 statistics. There is the SAFE index, the SAIDI minutes, the KD minutes, and the annual ASAI percentage. And as you can see, specifically, SAFE in 2020 was 0.71, and the 5-year change percent is negative 4.57%. The SAIDI minutes are in 2020 was 89.15, and an average change in that number over the last 5 years is 1.18%. The annual KD minutes in 2020 was 125.15, with an average year change of 7.39%. And the annual ASAI percentage is 99.98. And that is in terms of percent. And essentially, for all intents and purposes, there has been no change in that particular statistic over the last 5 years. Below this particular table is a legend specifically defining what SAFE stands for, what SAIDI stands for what KD stands for, and what ASAI stands for. And this information has actually been filed by all of various utilities, and this information has been available. And I believe this information goes back even farther than the 5 years. We left 5 years in place because it seemed a good time frame and a consistent time frame over which to depict these reliability statistics. And at the very bottom, there are 3 charts which basically provide you the annual numbers for SAFE, for Sadie and for Katie minutes, with each of the year's numbers listed on the chart. Again, from going from left to right, going from 2016 through 2020. And I would actually request any comments or additions as to basically how this format generally works for the commissioners, and ultimately how the commission would like to present this information on the NMPRC website.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Fishman?
Mr. Chair, yeah, one thing that we have not added to this yet is a breakdown of how much renewables is being provided. I think the public and everyone would like to see that stat, and probably the way to do it is some kind of pie chart that breaks down between coal, gas, nuclear, and wind and solar. But that, I'm sure that would be of interest to a lot of folks, particularly with our policy prescriptions from the legislature.
Yeah, that's a good point, Commissioner. I know that when I first came on board, I wanted to kind of get just a quick snapshot on RPS compliance on the part of the IOUs, and I felt our website and the presentation of that information was a bit clunky. So I agree it should be a little more simplified and accessible for the public on renewables.
Okay, I actually have a general question specifically with respect to renewables, and that is, when you're looking at this pie chart, are you looking at this in terms of capacity or either estimated or actual energy in the most recent filed year? And would you also include wind and purchase power as part of this? Because it may turn out that some of the purchase power agreements may not necessarily be renewable sourced, or they may be 100% renewables sourced. But it seems to be if we do capacity, it will be an entirely different chart than if we would be doing it based on energy.
Mr. Chair, just a couple quick thoughts there.
Sure.
One, to be consistent, I would use actual energy produced the prior year by each of the different types of generation. And then you might want to put a separate chart just looking forward that has capacity going forward, and identify that as more of a future-looking metric.
Okay, and we're looking at in terms of capacity, but are we looking at average summer capacity, average winter capacity, or an average of monthly capacity? Again, it sort of relates, especially with respect to solar, in that the capacity component is different compared to the utilities' overall capacity contributions. And so we need to, I think we need to clearly state what the assumption is and what utilities may actually prefer to basically provide, again, as a future-looking metric. And by the way, is the metric just for the next 5 years, or is the metric all the way out to, all the way out for significantly longer than the 5 years? Because the Renewable Energy Act has overall goals for 50, 75, and 100% compliance, and each utility is either going to be ahead of, or basically trying to meet those. And basically, this would be an idea as to whether or not each utility is on track, ahead of track, or behind track of meeting the goals in the REA.
So, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yes,
well,
Vice Chair Hall.
Well, Mr. Olmsted raised a question. Do we want to, how frequently would the commission like to see that information? I think that was what you were raising, John, is that correct?
Yes.
Personally, I'd like to see monthly. I just like to see graphs. I like to see trends. And especially in the area of capacity, it would be very informative. I'd like to just see what it looks like, so I can better understand, our situation, the utilities position, that is the utility situation, with respect to, what they're operating with at any given time. Now, capacity, would that metric include contracted? I guess that's just energy. I don't know how that, like if the company, for example, if the company has a contract with a provider to provide them a certain amount of energy, would that be considered? Would you look at that? Wouldn't be part of the metric of capacity. That's energy.
Well, I guess in this instance, with respect to capacity, for renewables, you might also have to, or want to, look at storage capacity, whether it's battery storage, and if the battery storage is paired with a specific renewable project, or if the battery storage might be installed somewhere else on the system, and whether it's permanent or not, and what its particular lifespan is likely to be.
Yeah, you can do that. Put that in the graph.
Okay.
Okay, good. Anything else? Any other comments from commissioners on this data and formatting and reporting frequency?
Yeah, well, with respect to, well, then if we're going to, okay, so we're looking at, I'd like to track the energy too. I'd like to somehow capture the, and this is with respect to our resource adequacy concerns. I'd just like to be able to see in graphic form the contribution made by the contracts that the utilities enter into to shore up their insufficient resources. Okay. And I guess that would be looking at energy, since they're not owned resources. We're just looking at the energy, but I'd like to see that kind of visual depiction. Maybe it's more like a Gantt chart or something, because those contracts are for, they span months to years, but they're not necessarily real long. So maybe this is straying from the purpose of this set of graphs. And if that's so, that could be something different.
Well, I guess in terms of of resource adequacy. You also need to look at specifically whether it, again, with battery storage, there is a certain, there's a certain amount of losses that you have for charging up and discharging batteries over period. Here, you're charging up, when during the day and when during the year, you need the usage for those battery storage systems to be utilized to provide resource adequacy, both on the energy and on the capacity side.
What would you suggest there?
Right now, I'm sort of between 6s and 7s on it. I would like to perhaps discuss this information in a more resource adequacy setting, and I believe that there are some forums, and I think perhaps there may be one tomorrow where we could talk about how better to display that and provide the commission and the public with information on resource adequacy.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
Yeah, following up on Commissioner Hall, I think resource adequacy would be a great new section to add to this. And I'll just throw out an idea, but I'm inviting all commissioners to talk directly with John if they've got ideas and better ideas. I think it'd be interesting to have a chart that shows monthly the peak demand and the actual capacity during the peak demand hours for each month through the year as one average number, so that you kind of have a chart that shows you through the year what your excess capacity is.
Okay, now when you're thinking about peak demand, are you looking specifically, say, like for an IO, you're looking at their individual peak hour as opposed to their system coincidental peak hour? And then in terms of, for resource adequacy, at that system coincidental peak hour by month, how each resource contributes to meeting resource adequacy requirements.
At the coincident peak.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I can't tell you exactly the format, but something like that might be very helpful and be a pretty quick summary that people can look at to see resource adequacy throughout the year.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
So this is really a comment directed to respond to Commissioner Fishman. I think, it sounds to me, correct me if you have a different, well, tell me if you have a different impression, but I'm aware, we know about the model that Sandia Labs is developing. Isn't that what they're working on essentially? That the decarbonization model, it's the same mechanism. It doesn't, it's for a different purpose, but it shows capacity from different resources over time.
Yeah, I'm not sure what database they have in there. I know that's used primarily for projecting future strategies. So in terms of the database that John uses to develop the chart. Sandia might be the source, or it might be the utility. But Sandia is not doing this for all three utilities.
Yeah.
They're just doing a part of
Big
P&M,
difference.
and they're
Right.
not including Facebook.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, didn't know that either. Forgot that.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's a different animal for now. But I think the methodology could be possibly transferable. Worry about
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I think, John, if you put together a format and just ask all the commissioners to comment and to comment on this whole thing, I would just invite commissioners to do that one-on-one if they like.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Great idea, Commissioner Fishman.
I can do that. I can. You have a copy of the P&M profile. I will also forward to you copies of El Paso Electric's profile as well as SPS's profile. And then I will work on the renewables pie chart for actual energy included in the most recent year by category: coal, gas, nuclear, solar, wind, and I guess also we have PPAs, and also a resource adequacy section specifically looking forward by, I'll try to look at it by month, but that level of granular detail might actually prove to be somewhat problematic going forward.
Yeah.
Because if there are issues with respect to the supply chain, getting specific resources online by specific times in order to meet resource adequacy requirements without handling, without getting that information. If there are unforeseen delays in the physical construction or the contracting for construction, an individual utility might have issues with providing that information in a public setting, given that it may be proprietary.
Yes, I see that. You'd have that problem even if you were going to have a longer period of time to, rather than monthly, maybe quarterly, but you might still run into that. You would probably run into that issue anyhow. Well, we'll have to figure out what to do.
We might be able to do an illustrative example, but again, going as a forward-looking thing, as a forward-looking chart or a table or a section in this, it might prove to be of fairly limited use for the commission, the commissioners, and actually the public. And it might cause more questions than it answers. And so in that respect, it might very well be problematic or more problematic.
Okay.
All right. Anything else so we can wrap this up?
So I've got a couple quick questions for the commission. One is, does this make sense to do this kind of a report and to have this available to folks on our website?
From my perspective, yes.
Me too.
Does anyone have a problem if we go forward with that assumption? Okay, good. I just want to be sure we're not rubbing anyone the wrong way. And then the second thing, John, this is just more a comment to you. In terms of resource availability, you may want to check into loads and resources tables, which are published in a lot of places, and see if that might be a source of resource adequacy data that you want to use, or formats. So just the suggestions for something to look into.
Okay,
Did you get that, John?
yes.
All right. Well, after listening to this presentation and the discussion, this is really what I envisioned for the commission in the formation of this advisory services group. And, I hope and I dream that we can fill the other two positions before we're out of office. But I think this is proof positive that this is something that's badly needed on the advisory side. So John, thank you for all your great work. Commissioner Fishman, thank you for suggesting this.
And I just want to quickly compliment John. In doing this, he's got all the backup data tables. So in pulling this together, it's not just having the summary information. It's along the way, he's gathered information, tables and resources that we can utilize for other analysis. And so I think the benefits could be a lot deeper than just the summary reporting. John, would you say that's accurate?
Yes, I would. Some of this information I've got, especially like EIA, I've got information going back. We're now beginning my 32nd year of history in this for this table, and the data is not just for New Mexico or New Mexico IOUs, but it includes a variety of other types of utilities. It's not absolutely comprehensive, but we're looking at hundreds of different utilities across every state in the United States. So the information is there, and that information is updated monthly. I've got information right now all the way through April of this year. It doesn't lend itself well to updating these tables and charts for each individual IOU. The calendar year, I think, works better for that. But the information does exist, and it's nice to have. And I do have the supporting tables around so that we can drill down to more granularity with respect to different utilities, different timeframes, different frequencies, whether it be quarterly, annually, or monthly.
So there's one final comment, and I invite commissioners to make suggestions to John on this, is we might decide we want to compare the data to, say, an average of costs and reliability and so forth for utilities in the mountain states or utilities in the western states, and see how the numbers stack up when we look at it that way. So those are the kinds of things that we, might decide to or might not decide to include in this kind of report. But you should feel free to ask John about them and discuss them and see what you think makes sense. I certainly will. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Any other comments from commissioners?
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't know. That last comment Commissioner Fishman made is a very attractive invitation. I think we should feel free to if he says, if this is a good, appropriate use of Mr. Olmsted, I would definitely like to look at various metrics with respect to the other Western states. So I'm glad to hear that's an available option to pursue.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. All right, well, thank you, John. Thank you, Commissioner Fishman, for that great discussion. Let's go ahead and move on to communications with the Chief of Staff. Mr. Wayne.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. It's nice to see everybody today. I'm going to be joined by Mr. John here. As I mentioned at the last commission meeting, we wanted to update you on a couple of things that have been brought to our attention, including some potential federal grant opportunities at a meeting with PNM on this a couple of weeks ago. So John's going to join me and brief you on that. And I think he also wants to brief you on the final meeting of the Attorney General's task force that was set up several months ago. So John, you want to?
Great. Come forward, John.
Thank you, Wayne, Mr. Chair and commissioners. First of all, on the Energy Security Task Force that the Attorney General is leading, the last meeting took place on May 23rd, the last of 3 meetings. There was no specific agenda. It was shorter than the prior meetings, but essentially the Attorney General stated his plan to produce an advisory report that would be, the timeline of that, I don't know at this point, but it would address, among others, the governor's office and this commission. The focus continues to be, as I mentioned before, is the impact of unplanned outages on ratepayers and whether the state and communities are prepared to deal with these outages. PNM did provide an update about resource adequacy at the time, and I think this commission is very well informed with numerous updates about that matter for this summer and for next summer. The priority from the Attorney General's perspective is, those among us that are the most vulnerable, medically dependent on continuous electric service as more healthcare is provided at home and less in hospital settings. So essentially, this was a continuing focus on that and how to deal with natural situations with weather and so forth that put at risk the continuing reliability of electric service. So that's where that effort has concluded at this stage. So the commission needs to look out for this advisory report and address it at that time.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
So I have a question about that advisory report. Is it just to describe problems that impinge on the most vulnerable, or does it pertain to the commission's actions, or can you give me any more information about the purpose of or the audience of the report?
My understanding of the report is limited, and what the Attorney General mentioned that it would be addressed in part to, obviously, to the public, but in part to the governor's office and to this agency, and essentially would focus on how we as a community, as a state, can be better prepared to deal with the impact of unplanned outages, particularly on those among us that are more vulnerable to these outages.
Planned? You say planned or unplanned or?
Unplanned outages.
Unplanned. Okay. Well, it does look like that CADA and SADA information that John Olmsted just showed might be something of interest to them. Would it be appropriate for us to offer to share that information, or are they able to? Do you think they've got it covered, John?
I don't know if they have that covered. I mean, those statistics are available, as Mr. Olmsted mentioned, and I know they're provided by utilities in their annual reports.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The commission.
Yeah, okay.
If the task force were to reach out to this commission, I'm sure we could help them obtain some of this information.
Sure. I agree. Thank you.
And the second item that Wayne mentioned had to do with this opportunity for grant funding that may come our way. And PNM has flagged this for us, but let me just give you a little context. This is related to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was passed by the federal government and signed by the president last November. It's $1 trillion+ budget, so it's huge. There are 350 programs, 3 major buckets based on my review. The transportation budget, which does include electric vehicle infrastructure, and that was addressed. Mr. Commissioner Maestas is well aware of this and was a big topic of discussion at the recent Transportation Electrification Summit. So there is funding coming from that bucket to the state. The other 2 buckets relate to broadband, and I know that Mike is he's aware of this. We talked about it the other day. The governor's office that's leading the charge on these infrastructure funding opportunities includes a broadband advisor as well as a water advisor. And then the third of the 3 buckets is the climate, energy, and the environment. So within the climate, energy, and the environment, there are a number of sub buckets. And as you drill down, the bucket that is relevant in this particular case has to do with enhancing grid reliance. And there are 3 programs under that in that bucket. And the one that was pointed out to us is unique, and I'll explain it. It's titled Program Upgrading Our Electric Grid and Ensuring Reliability and Resiliency. It's managed at the federal level by the Department of Energy. The amount of funding is $5 billion over a period of 5 years. And just for the sake of illustration, where 5% of that be available to New Mexico, it's just $250 million. So clearly, it would be a sizable opportunity for the state. There are the other 2 programs under enhancing grid resilience include preventing outages, enhancing resilience of the grid. EMNRD is active with that particular program. They've recently replied to a request for information. And then there's a smaller program.
Was that, John? Did you say grid resilience?
It's preventing outages and enhancing the resilience of the grid.
Okay.
EMNRD is active in that, as I mentioned, and then a smaller program for rural areas to energy improvement or improving resilience in rural and remote areas. Now, the last 2 programs are the potential funding recipients are states, and largely states and local governments, while the second one I mentioned, or the third of 3, those are open to smaller cities and towns or unincorporated areas with up to 10,000 inhabitants. Now, the one that's at issue here, it's to upgrade the grid and ensure reliability and resiliency. What makes this one unique is that I believe among the 350+ programs in the statute is that state public utility commissions are specifically designated as potential recipients of funding. And so this commission would have could have a significant role to play. But generally speaking, more broadly speaking, potential recipients include states, combination of 2 or more states, tribes, and units of local government. The nature of the funding is through grants or cooperative agreements. And the objective here, and some of this language is, I've read it many times, is not as clear, but maybe intentionally. And it's to demonstrate innovative approaches to transmission, storage, and distribution infrastructure in order to harden and enhance resilience and reliability. Also to demonstrate new approaches to enhance regional grid resilience. It requires coordination and collaboration with electric sector owners and operators. In terms of cost sharing, there's a 20% cost share, 20% for the state, 80% for the federal government for research and development activity, and 50% cost share for demonstration or commercial application activity. PNM has a lead person who is focused on funding opportunities available from this statute. And we met with Wayne. I followed up recently. They are offering support to entities that to obtain this funding. The goal at a higher level is really for New Mexico to get its share of this $1 trillion plus money and to put it to good use. The governor has already set up an infrastructure team. EMNRD has started, is active. As I said, we've been in touch with PNM. I've reached out to co-ops that haven't heard back yet. And it's going to require collaboration with them. So the details, I think, at this point are vague, and we're expecting, while the federal government has put out a notice of intent to issue solicitations regarding this particular program and many others, that's not available yet. So the details are still being developed by the Department of Energy, and those details are needed, and once available, I think the commission should get engaged here. So I think at this stage there are a couple of possibilities for the commission that I'd like to raise. One is similar to what the Michigan Commission has done, and then Art O'Donnell flagged this for me. I spoke to him a few days ago about this, and the Michigan Commission opened a docket to get utility input about what each of the utilities is doing to obtain and leverage the funding that's available for this statute. And the responses were provided just recently, early June, I believe, by the major IOUs in Michigan. That's an avenue that the commission may want to consider. And finally, to make sure that there's follow-up on this matter, the commission may want to consider having someone like Arthur O'Donnell or Mary Jane Parks, or possibly an outside person. I mean, this form of federal funding and reading through the Federal Register and somewhat arcane and not something I have any significant experience with, but apparently there are people who have some expertise with dealing with federal government RFIs, notices of intent, further solicitations as necessary. So at this point, I wanted to flag this to the commission. I appreciate PNM bringing this up to us. And there is a PNM delegation, I'm told, that is going to be in Washington, D.C. starting tomorrow, and along with other utilities, the Department of Energy, various people at federal level, to try to develop some more information. And they're open to further discussions with us with what they learned about this trip once they return. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them or make a note of them. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John? I had one comment, John, on the whole grid mod, our state grid mod act. You know, the last time I checked, the actual grant program that was a prominent element of that legislation had not been capitalized through state funding, and maybe that could be an impetus. The federal funding can be an impetus to get the state to appropriate money to the grid mod grant program. And I suggest that maybe we also add that to our legislative agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Any other comments or questions for Wayne or John?
Mr. Chair?
All right. Yes, Commissioner Frischman.
I just wanted to point out that June 10 was a major day for the PRC and for our chief of staff, who hid the fact that he had a birthday. And I just want to say happy birthday to Wayne, and also to his capable assistant, Danielle, who happens to share that same birthday.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And if you're wondering how I got this information, I got it from none other than John Olmsted, who I have no idea why he's rifling through agency records to get all this personal information. But he's obviously very thorough, and when there's a record out there, he finds it, damn it. So, but anyway, happy birthday to Wayne and to Danielle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner Fishman. I do appreciate you those well wishes. I will note, however, that Danielle and I are not the only ones who have June birthdays. Mr. Olmsted is about ready to celebrate a milestone birthday, and I believe Commissioner Byrd is about ready to turn 40. So we've got a couple of a few Geminis here, which is probably both good and bad if you know Geminis.
Oh my God, that's a breach of birthday protocol to mention the actual age, but it's already out there. So
it's tough. I know that.
That's okay.
And I thought Commissioner Byrd was much, much older, but anyway.
He just seems mature for his age.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, wisdom beyond my years.
That's what I mean.
There you go.
Happy birthday to everyone. And gee, we should have monthly birthday recognitions. I think we used to do that, actually. No, different agency. That was insurance.
it's not too late. We can start a tradition.
Not too
All right.
late.
Anything else for Wayne and John?
Well, actually, Mr. Chair, I have many questions for John, but I can call him, later, because this is really exciting and not, it's exciting that they identify in the bill that commissions are part of the whole job of ensuring that grid hardening and so forth gets done. So, I think we should definitely look closely and maybe even get a team together, as John mentioned, people to make sure we're on top of whatever it is we can do to help secure as much funding as possible for our state going forward under this generous handout.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Wayne or John?
No.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on. Matters from General Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we don't have a lot. We're basically right now just focused in OGC on trying to get a bunch of interviews done to fill some of our vacant positions. So that's where we're focused at this moment. And that's about all I have right now.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Office of General Counsel? All right. Hearing none, let's go ahead and move on. Communications from commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I do have a communication that I feel is something that we should really pay attention to. I've been participating in communications with both the Board of State Regulators of the Western Energy and Balance Market and the group of 6 commissions in the West that have renewable energy or greenhouse gas emission standards, whose interests they're which interests they're trying to protect in proposed developments of our markets in the West. And CAISO, California Independent System Operator, which is functions like an RTO out of California. Well, actually, they don't function like an RTO. They only function like an RTO within their state. But they also manage and can essentially control the management of the Western Energy and Balance Market. And we have several utilities in that market. The Western Energy and Balance Market is developing a market that is called the day-ahead market that allows participating utilities and other entities to propose their bids a day ahead, and it allows the market to develop more certainty in the price, the market price, among other things. So, and this is a big development to start up a day-ahead market. So that's being conducted by the Western Energy and Balance Market, which is offered to most of the all the Western states, actually. A competing developing energy and balance market, I shouldn't say developing, it's operating, is operated by, no, it is developing at this point. I don't think it is in operation yet, but is operated by Southwest Power Pool, and they are also developing plans for a day-ahead market as well. So, especially, I think I'll speak just on behalf of my membership in the 6-member states with renewable portfolio standards perspective. Both of these entities, well, let's see, CAISO has requested that parties who are interested in the development of this day-ahead market provide comments tomorrow to CAISO about their concerns. And so this group of 6 states has written comments expressing their desire to make sure that this formation of the day-ahead market will not be formed in such a way that will not develop so that it will in any way compromise the interests of these states in being able to basically ensure that their reporting mechanisms for compliance by utilities with their state renewable requirements are not impinged upon in the way that the day-ahead market is going to be developed. So they're submitting these comments. The deadline was a short one, so they really had to scramble to put these comments together. And they said they realize it's too late for commissions to react as a whole, but they are asking any interested commissioners to sign on individually to these comments. And I've studied them and talked to our consultant about them, and I'm quite satisfied that they are comments that serve our interests in terms of making sure that however the day-ahead market is going to be developed, that these concerns of ours are voiced about making sure that however the market will be developing, and the details are impossible to describe now, but there are certain aspects of the mechanism of the market that would be important to have adopted so that utilities participating would be able to confirm their compliance with their state regulatory requirements. So I'd like to invite any of the other commissioners to sign on to these comments with me. It's, of course, purely voluntary. And I know I'm just asking you to do it based on what I'm telling you here now. This has been rushed, not just for our group, but for everybody else, all the other states, and the Board of State Regulators, which I'm also a member of, that they are also rushing to submit comments. But I think our particular interest is with this group of 6 commissions, because that will be a particularly difficult, that will make it particularly difficult for unless that issue is addressed, it will make it particularly difficult for utilities in our state to be able to win the benefits from participating in the day ahead market. And those benefits those are the benefits that can be passed on to consumers to reduce the cost of electricity. And those utilities would be put in a very hard position, having to try to, wanting to participate in this market, but not being able to establish compliance. So, it's, I think, a point we really need to push hard on. And so that's why I'm signing up. And I invite any other commissioners to sign up if they choose. And if you'll just let me know, then I can let them know, and names will be added electronically, is my understanding.
Sounds good. I'd like to join with you,
Thank
Vice
you.
Chair Hall.
I appreciate it.
Anything else? Any other matters from commissioners? I do want to state, oh yes, go ahead, Commissioner Fishman.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to repeat my birthday wishes to Commissioner Byrd. And I also wanted to point out that he's exactly 2 months older than my eldest son. So I have new paternal feelings towards Commissioner Byrd.
Commissioner Byrd, are you compelled to respond, or?
I don't know whether I'm flattered, honored, or scared.
You should be all three.
Well, well, at least one commissioner's inquired about the unusual background noises where I'm at, and I will neither confirm nor deny that I am currently on a Mexican island in the Yucatan Peninsula.
But I have a picture you want me to show everybody?
No.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
Well, I would just say more power to you. You deserve a vacation, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. And I tip my hat to you for running the meeting while you're on vacation. Thanks for your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other matters from commissioners? Awesome, everyone. Well, thank you for hanging tough. We are adjourned. See you next week.
Have a good trip.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.